Living in Greenhaven Meadows wasn't my top pick, but its proximity to my workplace and the scenic walking paths made it ideal for my service dog, Jasper. Jasper, a striking golden retriever, helps me navigate my PTSD episodes from my time serving overseas. He's impeccably trained, always wearing his service vest in public and obeying commands flawlessly. I know the Americans with Disabilities Act inside out. It's a must when you depend on a service animal. But I never thought I'd have to quote federal law to my HOA president. The first time I met Susan Hargrove, she clutched a clipboard and wore a scowl that seemed carved into her face. She introduced herself as the HOA president with a tone implying I should be awestruck. "I don't recall approving a dog in this neighborhood," she said, eyes narrowing at Jasper, who sat calmly by my side. I courteously explained that Jasper was a service dog, not a pet, and exempt from pet restrictions under federal law. She scoffed, mumbled about people exploiting loopholes, and stormed off. I should have seen the red flags then. Over the next few weeks, I received 3 notices for supposed violations. My lawn being a quarter-inch too long, my mailbox painted the wrong shade of gray, and my trash can visible from the street for about 45 minutes post-pickup. Each notice bore Susan's ornate signature, paired with a smiley face that felt more menacing than warm. I complied, hoping to avoid conflict, but I sensed these petty citations were just the start. Then came the HOA meeting, where Susan proposed a new rule requiring all animals, including service dogs, to register with the board and wear HOA-approved tags. When I pointed out this violated the Americans with Disabilities Act, she interrupted, claiming federal laws don't trump community standards. Several neighbors shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. After the meeting, Susan leaned in and hissed, "If you want to play hardball, I can play harder." Her breath reeked of coffee and menace. The following weekend, I was relaxing on my porch with Jasper resting at my feet, reading the paper, when a shadow crossed my lawn. Susan stood there in her usual khaki shorts and polo, wielding a spray bottle. "Your dog's breaking the new pet ordinance by not wearing HOA tags," she announced loudly, ensuring neighbors could hear. I calmly reiterated that Jasper was a service dog, protected by federal law, and the rule wasn't even in effect yet. Her face flushed a vivid crimson. "I'm sick of you veteran types thinking you're above the rules," she snapped, stepping toward my yard. "If you won't comply, I'll deal with this myself." Before I could react, she aimed her spray bottle at Jasper and sprayed him in the face. Jasper yelped, retreating and pawing at his eyes. I leapt up, positioning myself between them, and demanded to know what was in the bottle. "Just a little vinegar and water," Susan said with a smirk. "It won't hurt him, but maybe he'll learn to respect authority." Furious, but drawing on years of military discipline, I stayed composed. I brought Jasper inside, rinsed his eyes thoroughly, and confirmed he was okay. The vinegar had irritated his eyes, but thankfully, there was no permanent harm. Once Jasper was settled, I called the police. 911. "What's your emergency?" the dispatcher asked. I reported the assault on my service dog, emphasizing that interfering with a service animal is a federal offense. The dispatcher took my details and said officers would arrive soon. 20 minutes later, 2 officers knocked on my door. I explained everything, showed Jasper's service dog certification and training records, and pointed out Susan's house across the street. One officer took my statement while the other approached Susan. From my window, I saw her gesturing frantically, her face twisted with outrage. The officer appeared unmoved by her theatrics. When both officers returned, they said Susan admitted to spraying Jasper but claimed she was enforcing community standards. They informed her that interfering with a service animal violates the Americans with Disabilities Act, carrying hefty fines and potential jail time, and her actions also constituted animal cruelty under state law. They were arresting her and asked if I wanted to press charges. Without hesitation, I said yes. Susan was handcuffed and led to the police car, shrieking about evicting me and turning the neighborhood against me. Several neighbors watched, and I overheard one murmur, "She's finally crossed the line." Another neighbor later apologized for staying silent at the meeting. "She's intimidated us all for too long," she admitted, glancing at Jasper, who had recovered and was his calm, attentive self again. The legal process moved swiftly. Susan faced charges of interfering with a service animal, animal cruelty, and harassment. Her first court appearance was a scene she arrived in designer clothes with a high-priced lawyer who grew visibly uneasy as evidence piled up. The judge was stern, stressing that community rules never override federal disability laws. While awaiting trial, an emergency HOA meeting was held. I attended with Jasper, and nearly every homeowner showed up. The vice president called for a no-confidence vote in Susan's leadership, citing her reckless actions that jeopardized the community legally. The vote was unanimous. Susan was ousted from the board immediately. Someone had even removed her name tag from the board members' table. The criminal case ended with Susan pleading guilty to a lesser charge to avoid a longer sentence. The judge sentenced her to 30 days in county jail, a $5,000 fine, 200 hours of community service at an animal shelter, and mandatory disability rights education. As the sentence was read, Susan's face cycled through shock, anger, and finally realization. "But I was just enforcing the rules," she protested weakly as the bailiff approached. The judge leaned forward and said, "The most important rule, Ms. Hargrove, is respecting the law, which protects service animals and those who rely on them." As Susan was led away to begin her sentence, our eyes met briefly in the courtroom. The arrogance that once defined her was gone, replaced by the humbled expression of someone who'd met a rule she couldn't manipulate. She mouthed something, maybe, "This isn't over," but we both knew it was. Jasper sat beside me, poised and professional, the epitome of a service dog. I scratched behind his ears, and he leaned into my hand, a quiet reminder of the bond that had weathered this storm and emerged stronger.